Eulalia once again made an excuse about a work issue during our dinner and left halfway through. I didn't try to stop her. Instead, I calmly finished my meal. That evening, I saw a post from her childhood friend on Facebook, a picture of Eulalia rolling up her sleeves to serve food onto the table. Sudden stomach problems, poor me. Eulalia was kind enough to cook for me. Whenever I need you, you're always there. That's my confidence. This time I didn't call her to yell or argue. After that, I didn't oppose her leaving me to take care of her childhood friend anymore. Instead, I gently said, "It's okay." Later, her childhood friend posted a picture of them playing a game and sharing a Pocky stick. I had no reaction. She finally panicked, her eyes red, anxious and wronged. "Why aren't you angry?" When Eulalia received the call, her steak had only been touched by 2 bites. "There's work at the company. I need to go deal with it." Go ahead." I cut a small piece of steak and put it in my mouth, tender and juicy, and I was quite satisfied. Eulalia seemed surprised by my calmness, furrowing her brows. "I'll bring you a gift when I come back." With that, she hurriedly left. I calmly finished my meal, a little regretful. I hadn't expected this last anniversary to be spent like this. When I got home, I saw a Facebook post from her childhood friend Eric. The photo showed Eulalia rolling up her sleeves to serve food onto the table. Sudden stomach problems, poor me. Eulalia was kind enough to cook for me. Whenever I need you, you're always there. That's my confidence. I turned off my phone and went to bed. In the middle of the night, I heard someone entering the house using the password. I vaguely registered the sound, confirmed it was Eulalia, and drifted back to sleep. Before I fully fell asleep again, it seemed like someone was watching me from beside the bed for a while. The next morning, after washing up, I made breakfast and set it on the table. Eulalia came into the dining room. She looked at the sandwiches and orange juice I had brought to the table and paused before saying, "Didn't you make my breakfast?" She didn't like Western breakfasts, and I usually didn't feel like making 2 different kinds in the morning, so I always made 2 Chinese-style breakfasts. I forgot. Just order takeout or eat something on the way. I quickly finished eating and got ready to leave for work. When I looked up, I saw her face was dark. "I know you're mad at me for lying yesterday, but that's because you've been so difficult before." I was scared. "I'm not mad. Eric's stomach problems flared up yesterday, and since he lives alone, I couldn't leave him. I'm really not mad. Please don't make a scene. I've told you before, I only see Eric as a brother. Why can't you understand? I'm really not mad, all right?" I couldn't help but raise my voice, but when I saw her shocked face, I softened my tone. "I understand, but I have to go to work now. We'll talk about this later when I get back." With that, I didn't have the time to care about Eulalia's emotions and left for work. At work, my boss called me into her office to persuade me again to reconsider the overseas assignment. "David, this is a great opportunity. The environment and safety over there are both excellent. Please think it over again." She had already tried to convince me last time, talking about salary, benefits, and career development, but I kept hesitating, always thinking about my relationship with Eulalia. I just couldn't make up my mind, but now I raised my head and saw the slightly disappointed expression on my boss's face. "I've thought it over, boss. I'm willing to go." She was pleased, and the fact that I didn't let her down lifted a weight from my heart. After work, I had dinner outside. When I came back home, I was surprised to find Eulalia was already back. "Now that was rare. You're late," she said calmly, handing me a box. "Anniversary gift." I blinked, then took the box with a sheepish smile. "Thank you. I forgot to buy your gift. Can I make it up to you later?" Her expression darkened a little. "David, calm down and listen to me. I've told you many times before. Eric and I grew up together. It wasn't easy for him to come to this city on his own, and I promised his parents I'd take care of him. I could tell she was upset, but I still didn't quite understand." "Don't get worked up. I understand. Just say what you want to say." "Don't act like this," she snapped, angrier now. "I've told you so many times Eric and I only have sibling-like feelings. Why can't you believe me? Think about it. If I really wanted to be with him, why would I be with you?" I tried to comfort her. "Calm down. I'm not angry. I really do believe you and Eric are just like siblings. She held back a breath. After a few moments of her chest heaving, she said, "I'm hungry." "Sorry, I already ate outside. You can order takeout or cook something yourself. There are ingredients in the fridge." What followed was the sound of her slamming the door. Just as I was about to sleep, Eulalia returned. She walked in and stared at me intently. It's raining outside. Well, why don't you dry your hair or take a shower? She was indeed wet, but I didn't understand why she was saying this. In disbelief, she said, I didn't bring an umbrella. I've been outside for 5 hours. It's raining. Aren't you worried? You weren't like this before. When we argued, you'd call me or ask my friends about my situation after I left. At the very least, you'd keep the lights on in the living room and wait for me to come back. But today I was out for 5 hours and you didn't even call once. I spoke gently. I didn't contact you because you're an adult now, and you know how to take care of yourself. Plus, I didn't want to embarrass you by asking your friends about your whereabouts. Eulalia's expression froze. She must have remembered something she had said to me before. Are you done? I'm an adult and I know what I'm doing. Why do you have to pressure me like this? And why did you bother my friends with phone calls? Do you know how they mocked me for it? Back then, when I had frantically asked around for hours to find her and finally learned where she was, I was relieved, only to be met with her angry scolding instead of gratitude. But I didn't want to dredge up old arguments. I'd been busy with work before the overseas assignment, and honestly, I was a little tired. Okay, you should go take a shower so you don't catch a cold. I turned and went into the master bedroom. Thinking about the work I had to hand over, it took me a while to fall asleep. In the half-sleep state, I felt someone touch my face. Then I heard a sigh, and the bed sank beside me. Eulalia seemed really upset. She was coming and going early in the morning and late at night, avoiding me and not sending me any messages. I actually found it quite peaceful and wasn't going to make things worse for myself. But after 5 days of Cold War, she actually messaged me first. I'll cook dinner tonight. Come back and eat. Honestly, I was quite surprised when I saw her message because it had always been me cooking. I had even pouted and complained about how tiring it was, asking her to cook for once. She had only held me and said, my almost non-existent cooking skills might send you to the hospital. And besides, I just want to eat the meals you cook for me. At the time, I was so blinded by love that I didn't question the contradiction between her words and reality. To make dishes that suited her taste, I had worked hard following recipes after work, enduring countless cuts and burns. It wasn't until Eric told me that Eulalia could actually cook that I realized I had been living in the sweet illusion that my girlfriend would often eat meals I had cooked for her. After a huge argument with Eulalia, her response had been as calm as ever. Eric doesn't know how to cook, and he's particular about food. I couldn't let him keep ordering takeout. He's not like you who can eat anything. I'm just taking care of my older brother. You're an adult now. Stop expecting others to cook for you all the time. If you think it's such a burden to cook for me, then don't. I don't have to eat the meals you make. After that, I guess I still forgave her after her not-so-sincere apology. What was that saying again? Tears and love are just water in the brain, but I still replied to her, okay. We were about to break up anyway. If possible, let's part on good terms. When I opened the door, I heard Eulalia call from the kitchen. David, wash your hands and sit down for a bit. The food will be ready soon. I sat at the dining table, feeling a sense of deep reflection. I hadn't expected Eulalia to take the initiative to cook. If she had done this any other day before, I would have been overjoyed. Eulalia quickly brought over 4 dishes and a soup. Though they were all relatively light after tasting them, I had to admit that Eulalia was a good cook. David, she called my name with a slight tinge of grievance in her voice. Why haven't you talked to me for so many days? Whenever we've had a Cold War before, you'd be the first to reach out to make up. But this time, you didn't contact me even once for 5 whole days. I swallowed my food. I thought you needed some space. We were silent for a moment. After a while, she carefully added, that day I had to cook for Eric because he missed dinner due to his stomach issue. I'll teach him how to cook soon and I won't keep going over there. Okay. I was worried she'd suddenly get angry again, thinking I didn't understand her. So I just gave a vague response and quietly continued eating. How about this month's gathering? Why don't you come with me? I was surprised and looked up to see the hopeful look in her eyes. Eulalia had taken me to her friends' gatherings before, but we both knew that what she was referring to this time was their special monthly gathering. The special part wasn't the content of the gathering, but the people who attended, only the members of their group. No spouses or anyone outside the circle. I'd asked her to bring me along before, but at first, she brushed it off. When that didn't work, she got angry with me. David, are you annoying me on purpose? Can't you stop being so clingy? It's suffocating me. I've told you before, this is a monthly get-together for just us friends. Why do you have to interfere with my personal space like this? I ended up flipping the table, yelling at her about how she was still taking Eric along. She responded coldly, "Eric grew up with me and knows all these people. He's not an outsider. Besides, he doesn't have any friends here, and I'm just trying to keep him from being lonely. You don't need to act all suspicious like a crazy person." I hadn't expected her to bring it up again now. However, with all the preparations for my overseas transfer, I was extremely busy, so I politely declined. Besides, my relationship with her friends was always a bit lukewarm. Given the current situation, there was no need to push myself into more awkward interactions. Work's been really busy lately, so let's just skip it. Eulalia slammed her chopsticks down on the table. Her face was weary, and her voice came out as a sigh. "David, I know you've been upset about Eric, and I've been accommodating you these past few days, but I'm exhausted too. I've lowered myself enough for you. What more do you want? You're 28 years old. Stop acting like a child throwing tantrums." "You misunderstood," I said calmly. "Work really is just busy right now. Fine. Whatever," she said stiffly. We finished dinner in silence without saying another word. In the end, she took Eric to the gathering. There was an issue with one of the projects at work that day. Even though I was about to leave, I was still involved, so I stayed late with my colleagues to fix things. During a break, I checked my phone and saw a message on WeChat from Eric. In the photo, he and Eulalia were smiling, both sharing a Pocky stick. The caption read, "Ha ha ha, these guys are too much. They're pranking me and Eulalia. I hope David won't mind," I chuckled and casually replied, "No problem, I don't mind." Then I muted my phone and got back to work. When I finished up, I saw that Eulalia had called me several times and sent dozens of messages. It was just part of the game punishment. I broke it off quickly. Our lips didn't touch. They were really far apart. "Can you reply to me, please?" "David, we decided to go eat at the new stir-fry place nearby. One of my colleagues called me over. We had planned to grab dinner after finishing our work. I'm coming." As I walked out of the office building, I saw Eulalia waiting for me outside. Was she really waiting for me here? How long had she been waiting? She looked up at me and her eyes lit up as she walked over quickly. I asked, confused, "You guys finished already?" I remembered their gatherings usually didn't wrap up until late at night. I left early. It was like the sun was setting in the west. I thought of her childhood friend Eric and asked, "What about Eric?" I dropped him off at home. "I'm going to have dinner with my colleagues. You?" I couldn't bring myself to invite her along. Before I could finish, she said, "It's fine, I'll wait for you." Well, there was no way I could eat with her waiting in the car. I quickly told my colleagues I wasn't joining them and left to be alone with her. She looked at me quietly, her eyes a bit red. "You're not angry? Huh?" I realized what she meant. The Pocky game from Eric's Facebook post. You were just playing a game. I'm not that petty. Eulalia opened her mouth, and the sadness in her eyes was undeniable in the dim light. I couldn't help but remember a similar incident, a party where her friends teased her into drinking with Eric and shared a photo online. At that time, I got furious, just like today. I called her more than 10 times, and eventually she blocked me. When she got home, instead of comforting me, she scolded me for overreacting, saying my heart was filthy and that I saw problems everywhere. She even told me to go see a psychologist. Now she looked at me and softly said, "David, let's go grab dinner." She quickly changed the topic. I didn't agree to have dinner with her. There's a place nearby that serves the snail noodles and stinky tofu I've been craving. I won't pollute your car's air. I'll just take a cab back home afterward. "It's fine," she said urgently, almost desperate. "You can eat it in my car. I don't mind." I was taken aback. Was this really the same Eulalia who once had a compulsive obsession with cleanliness in her car? But I didn't feel like arguing, so I decided to just go along with it. I didn't mind eating a quick meal on the way home. She didn't head home, though. Instead, she took a detour and parked at the food street entrance. I was puzzled as she turned to me and said, "David, just wait here for a moment." Then she got out of the car and walked into the street. I sat there alone in the car, looking at the familiar interior, my mind wandering back to the past. She had never let me eat in her car before. One time I was running late and ate a piece of bread in her car, spilling crumbs. She had thrown a tantrum, parked the car, and lectured me about it. I was late for work, so I got out and took a cab to the office. That time was one of the few times I stood up for myself, and after that, She calmed down and explained her obsession with cleanliness and how much she cared about her car. I had my doubts about our relationship then, but I convinced myself that she was just that type of person. After that, I never ate in her car again, but it became a ticking time bomb between us. The last straw was when she was taking me to a party and Eric was eating chips and spicy snacks in her car. I got cold and distant, all those old memories rushing back. I mocked her in front of him. So you have selective car cleanliness now? Or is it just that I'm an outsider and not allowed to eat in your car? Eric looked confused, embarrassed, and immediately put away the snacks. Eulalia glared at me and snapped, "You're sick!" Then she drove off, leaving me standing there alone. When we got home, she yelled at me for hours. Eric has stomach issues and he needs snacks sometimes. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? Where are your manners? Fine, I'll tell you then, she added with a snarl. Eric has the privilege of eating in my car. You don't. You're just an outsider. Got it? That was the closest we ever came to breaking up. How did we make up afterward? I don't remember. But I suppose I just wasn't ready to give up on her, and that's why she could convince me to stay. The smell of snail noodles and stinky tofu broke me out of my reverie. I looked at Eulalia as she brought over the takeout boxes. The pungent smell already escaping from the tightly sealed bags. Eat while it's hot. Fill your stomach first, she offered, handing me the food with a forced smile. We can see what else is around, or I can cook for you when we get home. I shook my head. No need. The snail noodles and stinky tofu are enough for me. Then I leaned back in the seat, waiting for her to drive. Is something wrong? Not hungry? She asked with concern. I smiled faintly. No, I'm just thinking about how inconvenient it will be for you to drive if I eat here. I'll eat when I get home. It's fine, we can park here, she insisted. It'll be cold if you don't eat now. I was hungry enough to agree, so I started eating. Once I finished, I looked around for a trash can, but she had already started the car. It's fine, she said. Just leave the trash in the car and we'll throw it out when we get home. The drive was silent. At one point, I noticed her wanting to speak but stopping herself, so I reminded her to focus on the road. She nodded and stayed quiet. Once we reached the apartment complex, I grabbed the trash bag to dispose of it. David. She stopped me, took the bag from my hand and shook it. Some of the broth spilled onto her seat, the seat she cleaned every day. I stared at her, bewildered. What are you doing? She looked at me with intense eyes, saying, You can eat whatever you want in my car from now on. It doesn't matter if you spill or dirty anything, and from now on, you're the only one with that privilege. Eric won't have it. I honestly thought she was losing her mind. I stood there stunned, and after a long pause, I simply said, It's late. You should go rest. When lying in bed, she crawled into my arms. David, let's talk properly. I frowned, trying to find an excuse to push her away. At that moment, her phone rang. The screen lit up with the name Eric. She held the phone, frozen, hesitating. Seeing her conflicted expression, I couldn't help but laugh. Go ahead and answer. Maybe it's urgent. She got up and answered the call. Eric, what's up so late? Your stomach's acting up again? Call 120. It's inconvenient for me to come right now. Is it unbearable? Okay, I'll come right away. She turned to me with an apologetic expression and said, Eric might have some trouble. I have to go. Afraid I wouldn't believe her, she added. His situation might really not be good this time. I'm worried about him. You know how... He's your childhood friend. I understand. But Eulalia didn't seem to realize that by saying this, she had already proven she knew that the reasons Eric had previously given for leaving were all lies. I was very tired, yawning as I forced a smile. It's fine, go ahead. She looked at me with a complicated expression. I'll come back as soon as I've sorted it out. My eyelids drooped, so tired that I no longer had the energy to keep smiling. When the door closed behind her, I fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up in the morning, I got out of bed to wash up. The house still looked the way it had when she left the night before. As expected, Eulalia hadn't come back. I felt calm, as this was already within my expectations. Since I had the day off, I decided to make the most of my last days in the country and go shopping. While I was out, I received a call from Eulalia. David, I'm sorry about last night. It's fine. How's Eric? When I got there, his stomach pain had eased up, but, I understand. Don't worry about it. No, listen to me. Her voice suddenly raised. It was late last night, and I was worried Eric might relapse, so I stayed there to keep him company. But I slept in the living room. Nothing crossed the line, I swear. I believe you. David, listen to me. I know you're disappointed in me. This morning I talked to Eric. From now on, I'll keep my distance from him and won't meddle in everything. Her voice was urgent but strangely filled with hope. Eric promised me that from now on, he won't contact me for everything, and he wants to apologize by taking you out to eat. He said he knows he was wrong before. He really means it, and this will be the last time. Can we have this meal with him? It's the final closure. I thought that we had to end this sooner or later, and it would be better to break up face to face. So I agreed. All right. To my surprise, the day they scheduled the meeting was the same day I was flying abroad. But fortunately, it was for lunch. If we finished quickly, I'd be able to catch the evening flight. Before that, I said goodbye to my colleagues and friends. They jokingly asked if I had any issues with leaving for 3 years without my girlfriend's objections. I replied that I would be breaking up with her. They were surprised, but didn't press me further on my personal matters. In the past few days, Eulalia had been in a very good mood. She seemed to think that once the Eric issue was resolved, everything would return to normal. On the day, she drove me to the restaurant she had booked. I didn't even ask where it was, but to my surprise, she had chosen a Sichuan restaurant. She had always thought that oily, spicy food was unhealthy, and she had opposed me eating it too, so she did know my tastes after all. When we entered the restaurant, Eric was already waiting there. As soon as he saw Eulalia, he rushed over and gave her a bear hug. Eulalia quickly pushed him away and looked nervously at me. Eric, grinning, said, "Eulalia and I have always been like this since we were kids." David, you've seen it before. Eulalia, with a serious face, said, "Eric, I have to tell you, there's a difference between men and women. We're adults now, and this kind of behavior isn't really appropriate." Eric shrugged. "All right, I knew you'd be biased towards your boyfriend." I just smiled, not saying anything. Every time I had seen him and Eulalia interact too closely in the past, I'd get angry and then we'd fight. Now, no matter how they interacted, I didn't feel the slightest stir in my heart. Seeing that I wasn't reacting this time, Eric's eyes flashed with a sneer. He sat down and sincerely apologized to me. "I'm sorry, David, I've been too careless before. Although I know you're generous and won't mind, I'm still really sorry. From now on, I won't contact Eulalia anymore. I'll leave her to you." Eulalia still couldn't bear it, sighing. "It's not that serious. If something really happens, you can still come to me. David's not petty." I wasn't interested in Eric's act. I picked up the menu and ordered boiled fish and spicy chicken, then handed the menu to them both. Eric, surprised, said, "David, both of these are spicy. You like spicy food?" Eulalia is so good to you. She doesn't have a good stomach and doesn't like spicy food just like me." It's fine. She doesn't like it, I do." He probably didn't expect me to be so direct, and Eric was momentarily speechless. These two were really the perfect pair, both with bad stomachs. I raised an eyebrow. Eulalia looked embarrassed and denied it. "I don't have a bad stomach, and I don't dislike spicy food. I just rarely eat it." "Eulalia, you're really too good to David. I envy him so much," Eric said. He ordered stir-fried cabbage and roast duck, then tried to win her favor. "Hey, I'm still the one who treats you the best. I'm always thinking of you when I order food." Then he smiled at me. "David, I don't mean anything by it. Don't overthink it. I'm just concerned about Eulalia." I took a sip of tea. "It's fine. I'm not overthinking." Eulalia's face darkened, but she still endured and said, "All right, let's just let them bring the food now." "Ah, Eulalia, don't you want to order? Aren't 2 non-spicy dishes too few?" "It's fine. This is enough." "Well, okay then." Eric flipped through the menu. "I'll order one more thing." He ordered a chicken cutlet. When the food arrived, the waiter told me that the drink I ordered was sold out and asked if I wanted to substitute it. I didn't mind and was about to nod when Eulalia suddenly stood up and said she'd go outside to the supermarket to buy it. She hurried out, leaving her phone on the table. After Eulalia left, Eric gave me a smile. "David, there's something I couldn't say in front of Eulalia just now. I think you're being a bit selfish, ordering food without considering Eulalia's preferences. Isn't it the job of a boyfriend and girlfriend to take care of each other? I'm younger than you by a few years, and I know these things. With you acting like this, I'm really worried about leaving her with you. Don't blame me for being overbearing." I couldn't be bothered to tell him that for the past few years, I had always been the one compromising for Eulalia's tastes, but then Eulalia came back to retrieve her phone. her face turning pale as she stood behind him. What are you looking at behind me? Do I have Eulalia? Eric stood up in panic, then turned back to glare at me fiercely. Eric, you're overstepping! Eulalia's voice turned cold. Don't forget, you came here to apologize, not to make things harder for me. Eulalia, you misunderstood. I just wanted to tell David to care for you more in the future. I don't need you to tell him that. I'll pamper my boyfriend myself. This was a dialogue that had come up countless times between me and her over the years. Now it was playing out between her and Eric. Eric, who had always been placed first in her life, didn't expect this kind of response from her. He stared at Eulalia in disbelief for a moment, then awkwardly said, All right, I know I've been disturbing you. I won't do it again. With that, he hurriedly left the restaurant. I nodded towards the door. Aren't you going to chase him? No need, she replied. He's a grown man and it's broad daylight. Nothing will happen. She sat down. Let's eat. She had forgotten she was supposed to go out and buy a drink for me. After taking a few bites, her phone rang. She picked it up and hung up. Then the phone rang again and she hung up once more. It repeated several times. The caller was persistent, as though they absolutely needed to get through. The other customers around us started to glance at our table, some even frowning. Answer it. What if something's wrong? It's fine. It's always like this with him. He wouldn't call if it was anything important. But your phone keeps ringing like this. It'll disturb other people, she hesitated, but then reluctantly answered the call. This time, the voice on the other end was loud enough for me to hear a few words. Sorry, Eulalia, I didn't mean to bother you. It's just that I ran out of money in my phone and my data's all used up. I don't know how to get home. I asked a few taxi drivers, but none of them would wait for me to get my money. The voice sounded very sincere, and Eulalia hesitated visibly. I watched with interest. She was uneasy, but after a moment she stood up. David, I promise this is the last time. I won't get involved again. She probably wanted to give me reassurance, so she leaned in to kiss me, but I avoided it. Seeing her wounded expression, I urged, Go quickly, it'll be bad if something really happens. David, wait for me. I'll be back as soon as I can. Without waiting for my response, she fled the restaurant, almost as if escaping. I was left alone with the dishes on the table, feeling a bit regretful that I had to waste the food. At the next table, a few young people, probably college students or just starting out in society, kept glancing at me uncertainly. I looked back at them with a questioning glance. One brave person finally spoke up. Hey bro, you really shouldn't trust that bad. Your girlfriend. The others nodded in agreement. Yeah, exactly. I laughed out loud, appreciating their concern. Thanks for your kindness. I know what I need to do. When I paid the bill, the waiter asked if I wanted to take the food to go. I shook my head. I need to catch a flight in a bit. I went straight home, now I should say to Eulalia's place, to grab the luggage I had already packed. To avoid her suspicion, I told her I was just sorting out seasonal clothes and throwing out unnecessary stuff. During that time, she was shuttling between the office and Eric, only coming home late at night, so she hadn't noticed the changes around the house. But I wasn't lying to her. When she returned, she would find that I had taken all my personal belongings and cleared out any traces I didn't want to leave behind. I left the keys and the anniversary gift she had given me on the coffee table in the living room. I had been curious about what she had gotten me, but since we were breaking up anyway, there was no need to keep the gift. Besides, I had been too busy lately to return the favor. I looked at the now somewhat empty living room and softly said, Goodbye, Eulalia. Then I closed the door. When I went downstairs, the car I called had just arrived. I felt a mixture of emotions. In the end, I hadn't found the opportunity to break up with her face to face. I headed straight for the airport. While waiting for my flight, I sent Eulalia the breakup message and then blocked all of her and Eric's contact details. The moment I hit block on everything, I felt a long-lost sense of relief. It was as if all the grievances I had bottled up over the years finally had an outlet, and my future suddenly felt full of hope. After waiting for almost an hour, it was finally time to board. David, I turned to see Eulalia running towards me, her appearance a far cry from her usual composed self. She took a moment to catch her breath, then grabbed my hand tightly, her voice trembling as she said, I really did go back quickly without staying for long. But when I went back to the restaurant, the waiter said you already paid and left. And when I got home, I found that all your things were gone. Then I called your friends and colleagues and found out that you were flying to Sweden today. Her eyes were filled with sorrow. Why didn't you tell me? If I had told you about the assignment, I actually tried to bring it up a few times before, but each time you had something else urgent going on. Urgent. To take care of Eric. She understood, and in a panic, she said, I won't get involved with Eric anymore. I'll block him, I'll cut ties with him, I won't talk to him anymore. I shook my head. You can't do that. No, I can. He has parents and friends here too. He doesn't always need to turn to me. I smiled faintly. So he does have friends here, huh? Eulalia opened her mouth but couldn't say anything. A few seconds passed before she spoke in a low, difficult voice. Your birthday is in a week, I still remember. I actually wanted to apologize to you properly on your birthday, but I didn't expect you'd leave so suddenly. Since I've already decided to break up with you, there's no need to celebrate the birthday together, I said, pausing before continuing. Besides, I haven't really celebrated my birthday in the past few years. I had mentioned wanting her to spend my birthday with me, but no need to revisit the past now. I had decided that once I was in Sweden, I would finally celebrate a birthday for myself, to make up for all these years. Upon hearing this, Eulalia's eyes reddened and tears started to form. I'll do whatever you want from now on. I'll cook from now on, she started rambling. I'll wait for you to come back. I'll wait as long as it takes. Give me one more chance, don't just condemn me to death like this. She pleaded with me for a long time, and the boarding announcement finally came over the intercom. I sighed. All right. Her eyes lit up with joy, but only if you answer one question. Ask me. I looked at her with pity and said softly, if you can tell me one single holiday or anniversary we've spent together since Eric moved to this city, then I'll agree to not break up with you. The light in her eyes faded, replaced by a growing sense of despair. She slowly released my hand, her voice breaking as she said, You won't forgive me, will you? Eulalia, let's part ways on good terms. She trembled as she took out a small box, her anniversary gift to me, the one I had left behind in the house. She begged, At least take it just for my sake. I gently pushed her hand away. Eulalia, don't hold on to the past. Look forward. Of course, if you meet someone else in the future, don't make the same mistakes again, I added. She shook her head in despair. There will never be someone like that again. The announcement kept urging passengers to board. I gave her a nod. Goodbye. I turned and walked toward the gate. Behind me, Eulalia finally broke down in tears. I kept walking, not once looking back. From then on, everything was a new beginning.